Good morning, early game crew. Time to get this week started. A short week for a lot of us. Holiday weekend ahead, but we're going to get it all started right now. Make like the Black Eyed Peas and get it all started right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. Jen Jensen's here. And filling in for Preston Thorne today, my man Jared Parker from Watch Fox. It's been a while since we've had Jared in here in the studio.
I know, it's been a minute. What's up, Elijah?
Now we got the chain gang here. We both got chains on.
It reminds me of that one comment a viewer made to you where he was like, I usually don't trust a man with a chain on, but he said you got some pretty good takes.
Usually, yes. Was that during the Colin Murray Boyles interview? Yes. Okay. I not only was I wearing the chain, I was wearing like my floral.
Yes.
Like, it's like a pink and purple floral shirt I actually wore this weekend for my fiance's mom's 50th birthday surprise party. And I was like, I gotta wear my best.
Beautiful.
So
Congrats, by the way, on the engagement.
Oh, thank you. We're still riding high on that one. That one. She got a lot of run on Saturday night with people. You know, we had threw a big surprise party for her mom, and a lot of people haven't seen her in a long time. So she spent a lot of the night with her left hand out like this, pointed down and showing the ring off. So. It was, it's been really nice. It's been an exciting last couple of weekends, I will say. We have not had a boring weekend in a hot minute.
Might be coming up soon.
In the Campbell household.
You may enjoy that, too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So it's not been boring the last couple of weekends, and then we're going to hit July.
Yeah. It's coming. The boring weekends are coming up soon for sports time.
It really is. Thankfully, around here, though, we've had the Kevin Schnall stuff. We'll get your take on that, too. But for those who don't know, our pal Jared Parker here from Miami, Florida International graduate. Right now, this show is being hosted by two Conference USA graduates here at MTSU and Florida International. It's a Conference USA takeover. I think it's when we need to start like renaming the shows in which Jared and I do.
Right.
But I have not gotten to talk to you about your favorite NBA team making the biggest trade of the summer so far. And getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. Have you already scheduled? Have you already talked to Matt Dowell, the sports director there at Watch Fox, to say, hey, Matt, I'm going to need like a week in June when the Miami Heat win the NBA title, so I can be in Miami and get to experience it.
I haven't had that conversation, but I think we're under the understanding that he knows it's going to happen because when the Florida Panthers won both their championships, I was down in Fort Lauderdale, so. I think Matt and I already have the understanding that when it happens, I will be there.
It's a mutual understanding between the two. Like, it's not, at this point, you don't have to. You probably don't have to say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. I haven't bought a jersey yet. I don't know which one I want to buy. I'm kind of waiting till the City Edition comes out because I'm like,
change every year.
Exactly, but those also might sell out, so I don't know. I gotta buy the jersey though. Giannis is home. He's home.
He's home where he wants to be. I did see a video of it was Chad Ochocinco, I think on Shannon Sharp's podcast like a month ago, saying he's going to be coming to Miami. He's already bought a house here. Wow. He's like, I know. He's already bought a house here. He's coming here one way or another.
You know, I love that he is home. I hate that he had to leave Milwaukee, though, because it seems like Milwaukee did really love him, and he seemed to like Milwaukee.
Yeah, no, they embraced him. He was the biggest star in that city that they've had. Maybe, how big are the Milwaukee Brewers, I guess, individual players in that town? I mean, Prince Fielder was a big deal there. You know, Ryan Braun before PED scandal was pretty big there. But we're talking biggest star in that town since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played there.
Yeah. What, 50, well, almost 60 years ago now?
Yeah. Long time ago. Long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to take a star like that from Milwaukee, but, I mean, that happens with small market teams.
They got him for a decade plus?
You did, yes. Much longer. I mean, these trade talks, since they won their title in 2021, it seems like these trade talks have been ever present. I actually... When I initially heard that we were looking to trade for him and that talks were moving along, I ignored it because I'm like, how many years in a row it's been so many players. It was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving,
Damian Lillard.
The Heat, respectfully, I love my team, but we've been in talks for a lot of players recently.
Pat Riley's phone works really well.
Yes, his phone works really well. So, I was like, whatever, we're not getting him. And then like it happened at night. I was actually asleep. I wake up and my phone has like 8 text messages like, oh my goodness, you guys actually did it.
He pulls it off.
The haul though, the haul is
It was a lot.
it was a lot, but I justify it by saying, well, one, we were a middle of the pack team in the playoffs if we were to make the playoffs. But middle of the pack team, we needed to do something. We couldn't
Yeah.
just run it back. And I think it's a lot harder to get a Giannis than it is to get the Tyler Heroes or the Jaime Jaquez.
Oh, for sure.
Khalil Ware is a bit of a unicorn, and I think he's
I
gonna
like him a lot.
Yeah, he's going to
Yeah.
turn out great for Milwaukee. Not so easy to get one of him, but
Harder to find, yeah, a 7-footer who can, because he can shoot now. I mean,
Yes,
that's something
yeah.
he did not do when he got out of college.
I mean he's like a discount. Well, I don't want to call him a discount or a poor man's, but he's
I like the poor man's comparison for anything because it gives
Yeah.
you plausible deniability of saying anything like too hyperbolic.
right, but he's like a poor man. He can be a poor man's Wemby, I think.
Okay, I think that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, he's got a skill set. He's just not maybe not 7'4". He's like what 7'1" maybe.
Yeah, but he's long, lanky, can shoot. Got dunked on by Bam that one time, but he defends well.
He does. He does. So that's one thing you don't want to. You hate to give up, and there's a bunch of draft picks. But
Yes.
you're
So
doing this to
we've
win right
got
now.
to win. We have got to win because if we don't win, it's gonna be ugly.
It's gonna be ugly if Jared Parker is not in Miami in mid-June next year.
We have a problem.
We might have an issue.
But if there's a man who can pull it off with a short bench, it's Spo. Eric Spoelstra could do it.
One of the best coaches in all of professional sports, I would say. If there's anybody you can trust in all professional sports, Eric Spoelstra, definitely one of them. One thing we haven't gotten you on to talk about, too, because the biggest storyline in this town this summer was, or at least so far, barring anything crazy happening, I'd knock on wood or anything like that. I don't expect anything groundbreaking to top a college baseball coaching search here in Columbia. But we had the baseball search. It's a baseball program that, we have covered in the last 2 years. It has been really bad. Dark days, the really the worst days in the history of this program. What's kind of been your reaction to the Schnallball craze we've had in Columbia so far with just how the entire search went down, then getting to now where Kevin Schnall's taken the job, and even just over the weekend, took another player from Wake Forest, is still burning the recruiting trail pretty hot right now, and looking like there's probably more enthusiasm going into next February with a program that desperately needs it than we've seen in terms of excitement with this program in a long time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Kevin Schnall can bring to Columbia. When I got here, it was 2 seasons ago. So I've seen these 2 seasons of really bad baseball. And I was talking with Matt Dowell about this, and I understand the history of baseball here in Columbia, and this might upset some people, but it was, for me, I was like, what I see right now, I do not understand why
it's so big.
Why the conversation. Yeah, I get it. This is a team with history. This is a team that has won national championships. But also, I was like, that was 15 years ago. Like, we're in the present now, and the present is pretty dark.
It's getting further as the years pass. That got further and further in the rearview mirror.
Exactly. But with Kevin Schnall, it seems like there's hope. Him flying in, the hype and everything. And I know he said he'll do what he needs to get this program,
whatever, to push it forward.
Yeah, where it needs to go. I love it. I love all of it. I love what he's done at Coastal Carolina, what he did at Coastal Carolina. I do think the search was a bit strange and how it all went out. I think you could tell it really affected the Chanticleers because
I think so too a little bit.
Yeah. Did I say that right? Chanticleers. So whoops.
I get that wrong. I get that wrong all the time. Even though I've lived here for 3 years now, and I've been an admirer of the Coastal Carolina baseball program. I think I've interchanged Chanticleers and Chanticleers.
Yeah, I've been corrected multiple times, so I'm like, let me get that right for our CCU fans out there. But yeah, I think you could tell it affected the team because it looked like they kind of lost their juice when the talks really seemed to heat up. So I'm sure they don't love how that went, but I mean, he's here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing. He's, as you said, he's blazing on the recruiting trail, which is something we haven't seen with this program from the Paul Maneri days. I think there has been, and not to put too much blame on the players, but there's been, I think, a disparity in talent, and I
For
think that's
sure.
fair to say
Yeah.
from South Carolina compared to other SEC teams.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was also a gap in coaching, but there's also been a disparity in talent. That's not going to be a problem next year.
Oh,
from
God,
the
no. I
recruiting
mean,
he's done.
you look at what Coastal Carolina's done the last 2 years. You're getting a lot of key cogs of that machine. You're getting some important players or players that Wake Forest coveted highly, and what that program's been the last couple of years, which is steady, consistent, with a high ceiling, right? I mean, it was what, just, was that 3 years ago when Paul Skeens and Rhett Lauder were pitching against each other in a College World Series final between LSU and Wake Forest? I mean, that wasn't long ago. That's not ancient history by any means. That's a really good program that did a really good job of evaluating players and especially pitchers, but you got a lot of impressive hitters there too. And that what they've been the last couple of years has been just really consistent. You're getting a lot of key players from that team too. I think just that influx of those guys, along with, you know, a couple of players like Evan Batone, right, who was at Marshall last year, was a first-team All-Sun Belt guy. Like, you're getting those guys, more maybe proven commodities that you're going more on production than just the potential of what they were, which is kind of the two baskets of categorization of every single transfer portal player. It's, are you getting this person because they were productive or because they have potential? I think you've seen a lot of really a good mix of both, but a lot of production that's getting on this roster for next year.
Yeah, even with the potential guys that he has brought in, they do have production under their belt too. So that's why I think I'm really impressed on what he's done so far. So far, I'm impressed on what he's done so far. We've got to add that because it still is very early.
More roster to fill.
More roster to fill. And I think it takes a little bit more than just talent to turn a program around.
Certainly.
But I'm impressed on what he's done because he's bringing in the proven commodities, which, again, is another thing that I think South Carolina kind of lacked the past couple years. There were some here and there, and some of the transfers did work out pretty decently.
Yeah, you got some production out of guys.
Yeah, but I think that's what South Carolina needed. But more importantly, I think as a fan base, they needed a coach that was going to bring them hope. I think the Maneri days, I think, you know, overwhelmingly from what I've seen, you know, on X, Twitter, social media, fans seem to think that Maneri was never fully committed to the Gamecocks.
Yeah, there was a disconnect.
Yeah, and then obviously Monty Lee, I think, was all in, but obviously I think there's a whole heap of things for why fans didn't want, just being, as they would say, a Clemson reject. Yeah, that was never going to be a full go for the fans, but Schnall coming in on a helicopter, like, that is, if that doesn't say I am fully here, I don't know what does.
Or I'll do whatever it takes to drum up excitement. Now, my question is, would you have come in on a helicopter? I think I would have passed on that. If we want to use pyrotechnics or whatever, we can. I just don't know if I would have done the whole helicopter thing, mostly because I am terrified of heights.
Yeah, I'm good with the pyros. Helicopter, I don't know. I've never been in a helicopter. I'm fine with the planes, but helicopter seems different. Like, you've got the headphones on, it's all whirring out loud. Like, I don't know, man. I like when I don't see the landing.
Right. I like when someone's taking care of it and I don't have to see it or worry about it.
Right. There's not many places to avert your eyes when a helicopter is landing. So
other than closing them.
Yeah, I don't know about the helicopter, but I think that's even more reason for why people should love that, because I don't think we would do it, but he did it. I don't know how he is with heights and helicopters and whatnot. He's probably flown on more helicopters than, well, obviously now he's flown on more helicopters.
Just by virtue of flying on the one, he's flown on more than me. Yeah.
But probably before that as well. But I don't know. I love it. But Pyros, it would have been Pyros for me.
Yeah, I think I would have stuck with that one. I'm a little too maybe neurotic for anything else. But it is talking season, though. July is just a couple of days away. We're getting into prime football talking season. What does Jared think about some of the biggest storylines of this football team going into a very pivotal 2026 season? Jared and I will discuss, especially a lot on the offensive side, next here on the early game. We've advanced past one stage of this soccer tournament. Now we're getting into the fun part, the knockout round. And DraftKings has you covered for every single match because DraftKings is live in all 50 states, including the great state of South Carolina that you're sitting in right now. So whether you're catching the early kickoff before work or maybe the late match at the bar, you can be in on every minute, every match, every moment, all in one app. So get a part of this knockout round craziness with DraftKings. New DraftKings customers sign up with code 1075thegame, spend $5 to get 200 total rewards over 21 days. That's code 1075thegame. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Event trading offered by DraftKings Predictions, a CFTC registered introducing broker. Trading involves risk of loss. Market availability varies. Eligibility restrictions apply. $50 every 7 days via click-to-claim issued non-withdrawable predictions dollars that expire in 1 year. Ends July 19th. For terms, go to dkng.co/predictions promo.
Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road, that's in the Blythewood area. A fallen tree could be slowing things down a smidge. And Pineview Road at Garner's Ferry, have an accident reported there as well. We're looking for a mix of clouds and sun today. Maybe a slight chance for a stray shower or thunderstorm possible. High of about 95. Heat index all this week. Heat index possibilities of 101 to 103. So we will keep that in mind. But as far as the forecast goes for tomorrow, some clouds, mix of clouds and sun as well tomorrow. And looking for a high of about 95. It just keeps going up throughout the week.
Talking season is here. I usually like to consider July peak talking season when it comes to SEC football. So we're not there just yet. We're only a couple days away till we do get into July. July 1st is on Wednesday. But Jared Parker, this South Carolina football team, in terms of talking season interest, I think has more than almost any team in the SEC. Not because I think they're going to be as good as Georgia or Texas or dysfunctional like Arkansas, but I find them to be fascinating because I see a wide range of possibilities as to what can happen with this football team. There are a couple of very massive ifs. But when you think about this South Carolina team, just from a perspective of comparison to everybody else in their conference, in their neighborhood, however you want to phrase it, what are the biggest things that you've been thinking about in terms of molding your own expectation for this team in 2026?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, number one is looking at last year. So I'm not expecting, a huge bowl game from this team right now, but I am expecting bowl game. And you kind of have to look at last year, look where they went well, what didn't go well. I think when you talk about the South Carolina team, they have some of the most exciting players to watch in college football. I mean, Dylan Stewart off the edge is an absolute wrecker. Bakari Swain back with returns, exciting player. Nick Harbor, Lenore Sellers. You don't have to talk about, what they do well. They're some of the most exciting players in college football. But I think a big point of what are we going to see is how's that offense going to look? Because the team is exciting when they're exciting, but for about 80% of the season, it looks stale.
There's a lot of going backwards.
Yes.
We've had Clark Brooks on from On3, SECStatCat.com, and he's told us like the one thing about South Carolina's offense is, they have a lot of the highlight reel plays, especially in 2024. They had a lot of the highlight reel plays, but they were going backwards with negative plays and sacks more than any team in the SEC over the last 3 years. And as much as I want to try to discern between which Lenora Sellers is the real one, and 2026 is the ultimate, will the real Lenora Sellers please stand up type of year, it's still not just Lenora's too. Like, there are other variables here, like the offensive line. And we've dubbed it the summer of the biggin here because offensive line play has kind of dominated the discourse for this entire offense. Like, I love what Kendall Briles has done offensively in his career as a play caller. I love the offenses that he's, been the architect of, that he has built, with his days in Arkansas specifically. They put up some ridiculous numbers, and the best years of Arkansas football in the last 10 to 15 years have been with Kendall Briles calling plays. So I've seen the proof of concept with him. Do we have enough up front in terms of just doing the fundamental part of blocking to where all that can be executed? Because that's where I'm so stuck when trying to determine how good this team is going to be and if they're going to win what you would consider, their 50-50 coin flip games. Can you block well enough for the scheme to actually play itself out? Because mentally, just with the knowledge of Kendall Briles being the OC, knowing what Lenora Sellers can do, like 2024 is not ancient history. We're all old enough to remember this. And knowing what Nick Harbor was able to do last season, even though he didn't get like an 1,000-yard, benchmark or anything like that, you still see what he can do and the God-given gifts that guy's got at wide receiver. I can see this offense having a high ceiling, but there's just that one massive 5 individual hang-up of what it's going to look like in terms of being able to adequately block this scheme.
Yeah, and you know what I will say, though? I am a bit of a Lonnie Teasley apologist.
Okay.
And people won't like hearing that, but
you're on Lonnie Teasley Island. Jared Parker, the leader
I don't know
of
if
Lonnie
I go
Teasley
that
Island.
far. I won't go that far because the offensive line was bad.
Yes.
That's undisputable. But there were a couple sacks last season that were not the offensive line's fault.
Also a good point.
Like, I remember against LSU, I forgot who got the sack. They rushed 6. You got 5 offensive linemen. I'm not blaming any of the offensive linemen when it's a scheme thing. So, and I did ask a question. I believe I asked Boaz Stanley, and unfortunately, I didn't get a straight answer. I was like, "Hey, whose responsibility on the field is it to pick that up?" He said, "Sometimes the center, sometimes the quarterback." He did the teammate thing.
Yeah, he did the teammate thing, but also that might be telling. If that was true serum coming out of him there, then that's also telling because somebody's got to pick that up.
Right, and nobody picked it up. And there were plays like that. There were times where Lenore's, held on to the ball a little long. So I just had to get that off my chest. I am a bit of a Lonnie Teasley apologist. I thought he deserved blame, but I thought he was like the lightning rod for a lot more blame than maybe was necessary for him.
Caught the ire.
But yeah, that's the biggest question mark, I think, of all going into the next season. I think defensively, there's some holes to fill, but there's enough proven commodities on defense that you don't really have a question about the defense. The teams look good. You brought in Deion Barnes, great edge coach. I was in Pennsylvania covering Penn State before I got here. I saw what he did with Denai Dennis Sutton and Chop Robinson and Abdul Carter.
NFL dudes.
Yes. So he has a history of just pumping out at least one guy every year that's just going to be a wrecker. So what he'll do with Dylan Stewart and then Julian Walker, I'm really excited to see what he does with Julian Walker.
A lot.
Because, especially as there's questions about Dylan Stewart, we don't know, what he's going to be with that injury. But the offensive line, you got to, it's hard to judge an offensive line in the offseason, I think, because it is the most unified group of players. You have to work 5 as one, and you can get a bunch of individuals and transfers and say, this guy did this guy, is this big, he looked like this.
He has this many starts
but
on 2 different schools.
Exactly, but if they look disjointed, that's going to help nobody. And I think that is one thing we saw last season. There was some hype about some of the guys, but they looked disjointed most of the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. It is so chemistry based sometimes too, and so communication oriented. And you saw maybe early on in the season, I know there was a play in the Virginia Tech game where Lenoris got sacked, where there was a stunt on one side of the offensive line, and just the communication was bad, and you got a free runner at the quarterback, and you didn't have to scheme it, right? It just happened at the at the line of scrimmage. That was kind of some foreshadowing of what would happen for the rest of the year. But you mentioned the defense. Coming up next, how good can the South Carolina defense be? You saw it elite in 2024. You saw it just good in 2025. What middle ground are you going to see this year, or will we see a middle ground? Jared and I will discuss that next year on the early game.
In Lexington County, Highway 6 at Bethany Church Road, an accident there. Also, in the Blythewood area, Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road, a tree has come down. 95 for the high today and tomorrow, 96 on Wednesday. A mix of clouds and sun each and every day. Just a little chance for maybe a pop-up shower sometime this afternoon. Definitely not anticipating a washout. We'll be in the upper 90s by the end of the week, but all week long, opportunities for heat indexes of about 101 to 103. So do keep that in mind. Starting off warmer this morning at 75.
Clayton White's defense in 2024, among the best in all of college football. Demetrius Knight, Kyle Kennard, Nick Emenwari, a slew of defensive linemen that got drafted like Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders. You lost a lot going into last year, but still, if you use SP Plus as your guide, still the number 31 defense in college football, still good. Was not a detriment by any means, and there were a couple of games in 2025 where South Carolina's defense gave you a chance, even though as a team you probably didn't deserve a chance to win. I think about the first half of the Oklahoma game where the defense kept you in it, making Oklahoma settle for field goals. I think about the LSU game where you're forcing turnovers and Garrett Nussmeier is giving you gifts like you're sitting around the Christmas tree. Your offense couldn't take control of it and couldn't take advantage of it. But in 2026, you're getting an interesting mix, Jared Parker, because you're getting a lot of key players back, most notably Dylan Stewart, but Vakari Swain in defensive back, Judge Collier, Peyton Williams, guys who have a lot of experience, a lot of guys in the interior of the defensive line too, which I think maybe your deepest group on that defensive side, as well as a mix of transfers, right? Like Tomi Durajai from Illinois, a lot of experience, was an honorable mention All Big Ten player last year at Illinois, and someone like Quay Sheet-Scott at Kentucky, who you might bring in now to kind of be that versatile, nickel corner, maybe brought in to bring what Brandon Cisse left last year. But I think the big question when it comes to talking about the South Carolina defense here this July, this month, when we are heavy into preview season, is do you kind of get a middle ground between 2024, 2025, or do you think this defense, with the additions they brought in and the guys they were able to retain, maybe can look like 2024? Or is this one of those things where we're just not going to know until we get a couple of games into SEC play?
I mean, 2024 is a high standard to reach. So I would never say that they're going to reach that standard until I see it. But I absolutely think they can be better than the 2025 defense. I mean, again, there's a lot of question marks like Brandon Cisse. He did a lot for this team, and it may not be one guy to replace him. It may be, replacing him by committee. So there's those questions. There's we mentioned earlier, Dylan Stewart with his injury. I don't know what Dylan Stewart is going to look like. You imagine if he's back at 100% that he'll be fine. But, injuries could take a lot more than just physical. It could be mental, I mean.
Especially a back injury.
Yeah, I was going to say in our summer softball league, I mean, you blew out your knee. I don't know what you did.
I tore my hamstring.
You tore your hamstring.
The first day, the first day of action.
And I'm sure there was some mental hesitation there right before you ran on it again.
Going into high speed was a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So when you talk about a back injury, I'm like, I can't imagine the mental, things in the back of your head that are like, I don't know if I can go all out here. But all that said, I think this defense has the capability to do a lot. I'm really, really excited to see Julian Walker, Dutch Fork kid. Like, I think if him and Dylan are next to each other, like, I think he can be one of those Dylan Stewart type true freshmen where he has a big year and can cause some nightmares for some offenses. We were talking during the break, Vakari Swain. Big fan of Vakari Swain.
Huge.
We know him for the punt returns, but I mean, in coverage, he's a great defender. And I think this is kind of a time for him to have a breakout year. Judge Collier, Peyton Williams. I think those three, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the backfield a lot.
Vicari Swain's one of those, you come for the punt returns, stay for the coverage,
Yes.
right? I think that might be what brings a lot of NFL scouts is that they get dazzled by what they saw at the beginning of last year in terms of the 3 punt return for touchdowns and how good he was at least picking up extra yardage the further he got into the season. He didn't take one to the house after the South Carolina State game, but he was still picking up a lot of yards just on average with his punt returns. But then you watch him defensively and you look at some of the underlying numbers, like having, an opposing QBR of 9.7 when passes are thrown his way. Reminder, QBR is a scale of 0 to 100. So a 9.7 is remarkable, right? Like that is somebody who is locking it down. He got significantly better in that regard. I think the secondary is that's the one unit that I think is going to surprise people. Maybe like your national media types will look at it and they will say, "Oh, I recognize some names, but I don't know what the ceiling's like," right?
Right.
But I think that's the one that can surprise, especially if your pass rush is just above adequate. And with Dylan Stewart, I think it's got a pretty high floor to be. I think a lot of what you saw from Stewart last year was some of the injury that held him back, some of the frustration of just how he's defended or he's being guarded every single play in terms of, holding, chip blocks. He's going to get the attention of everybody.
Yes.
But say Julian Walker comes in and is a day one contributor, which I think he could be. If you've even seen Julian Walker in person, I know Gamecock fans might not have been going to Dutch Fork High School on Friday nights to watch him play. We've covered high school football around here in the area. Julian Walker's name is pretty ubiquitous in those conversations because of just how college football ready that guy is when he walks off the bus. He passed the alien test in every single game he played. I don't see why he can't be a contributor day one. And if he is, and he takes some of that attention off of Dylan Stewart, you're going to get better season from Dylan Stewart. And when that happens, your secondary doesn't have to cover for as long. Then you can force turnovers. Then you can maybe afford to take some gambles, some risks, right? And you've got enough playmakers in that defensive backfield that I think that's the one thing that may surprise people coming into this year about this defense.
Absolutely, yeah. The playmakers in the secondary, I mean, we talk about Vicari Swain. Like, I think we'll see his interception numbers go up. He's a former wide receiver, played wide receiver in high school. So we know he has the ball skills. We know he has the speed. We know he has the coverage. So now it's like, all right, with more playtime, with higher responsibilities, I think we'll see him pick off some balls. You talk about that front seven, question marks in some of it, but I think when you say, Julian Walker, alien test, I mean, the dude has a long arm span, long reach. I mean, we've seen him in high school football. Like, we're not talking about Julian Walker just because, we've been told to talk about him. Like, we have both seen him.
Seen it with our own eyes.
Yes, in action at Dutch Fork, where they're boots on the ground. And, like, the guy just does some incredible things. So I think there's a lot of excitement there. Again, I don't know that you get to 2024, but when you look at 2024, I mean, that was a big year when you had Kyle Kennard and true freshman Dylan Stewart.
You had the pairing. You had a great pairing.
Yes.
You had a, Nagurski Award winner and Dylan Stewart on both sides of your defensive line. Like, that's terrifying. As good as Brian Thomas Jr. was, I think he's a really good edge rusher. Brian Thomas Jr. just wasn't Kyle Kennard. That'd have been a really tough ask.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, I think absolutely Dylan Stewart, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination can have a much bigger season than Kyle Kennard did just with his talent level. So you asked Julian Walker to just give something to take off the attention from Dylan Stewart. And there's a lot of potential this defense can have in terms of forcing turnovers, playing some of that Beamer ball.
And then I think you can rotate Walker and Caleb Herring around a lot. I like Herring in terms of his ability to win at the line of scrimmage. He had a little bit of a missed tackle problem at Tennessee. But if he's able to shore some of that up, like, the guy's got the build and maybe the athletic skill set to be a really good edge rusher. And if you're able to get two guys on both sides of the line of scrimmage, that makes everybody's job significantly easier behind them. But coming up next, the Global Goblet, the international soccer tournament whose name we can't say for copyright reasons. Update brought to you by the British Bulldog. It includes one team who won a knockout stage game in dramatic fashion. We'll tell you who next.
The Global Goblet.
or the Global Goblet, whatever you want to call it, because the Global Goblet not copyrighted. At least it's not copyrighted yet. You know, as I have my YouTube stream pulled up and I didn't put it on mute. Audio lessons.
International Soccer Tournament.
Yes, the International Soccer Tournament, whose name we cannot say. We're in the knockout stage, though, Jared Parker. Now we get to the fun part. Now, a couple of the matchups won't be as fun as they would be in the first knockout round games like in the past, because now we have a round of 32 instead of just a round of 16 because of the rather significant expansion of this event. But yesterday we had our first knockout round game, Canada, South Africa. And if you were like me and you were asleep for the first 75 minutes of this game and you woke up from your nap and you saw that it was still knotted up at 0, you were still good. Even though what you would have missed is that Canada dominated the game. I think in terms of like expected goals, Canada was at like 1.12 and South Africa was at 0.17, right? So like in terms of like quality shots, Canada was knocking on the door for the entire game.
Yeah.
But in stoppage time, I think it was the 92nd minute.
Yes.
They finally get a goal. They're showing it on ESPN right now. They finally get a goal from just a little, almost outside the box. But Canada, for the first time, is going to be participating in the round of 16 in this Global Goblet international tournament that we cannot say because of copyright reasons. And we've already gotten some drama. But I think the one thing that I do like about expansion, and there's not a lot in terms of any sport, is that you do get a storyline like Canada, who is not normally advancing in this event ever, got to do something yesterday for the first time in their nation's history, and it was a massive, massive deal. No matter what happens to them here on out, they've already succeeded because they got to advance in this tournament.
Yeah, I think I was not a fan of the expansion at first, but I mean, you talk about Canada, what an epic finish, what a way to advance. It was a great strike on that goal as well.
Oh, it was awesome.
This epic way to advance. But I think what I do love is for so many nations, you've seen a lot of firsts this year. And I don't know if that's just the novelty of the first year of expansion. We might get tired of it come next international soccer tournament. But
in 4 years.
Yeah, but I think that it's been super cool to see. So I'll admit, I was absolutely wrong about how I felt about expansion. Like, I have loved it. And you go on to the knockout stages. I just think, and I want to be careful because I don't agree with this for everything. Because, college basketball is the hot topic. College football might be coming soon. For this tournament, I like more games. More games has been really fun. I thought that we would have some unimportant games because of and I will say, the final day of the group stage was not as exciting in years past.
Because the superstars are sitting.
Yeah. That was a little bit disappointing, especially the France-Norway game.
Right.
Where I think Norway sat 10 players.
Yeah, including Erling Haaland, who is one of the best players in the world.
Right.
You had a chance to see him and Mbappe play against each other, and Norway's like, nah, we're good. We're already locked into our spot. We're good.
Yeah. And to be fair, I get it. I mean, like, they've been incentivized to rest because you go against a powerhouse like France, play all your guys, and if you lose, it's like, okay, well, what did we do that for? If you figure you may lose anyway, like, let's rest. Let's gear up for the part of the tournament that matters. France played their guys. We'll see how they do after that, although I don't think it'll affect them too bad since that was a pretty easy win. But the final day of the tournament hasn't been as fun, but the rest of the tournament, we've got more games. And I think more games, again, I say this carefully, has been a good thing for this tournament.
I think I like it because it is every 4 years.
Yes.
I will accept more games just because it is such a novelty, right? We don't get this every summer. So when you do, to get more of it, it's something I never considered, that you would just get more games, more action. And I have appreciated that part of it. Today, though, we've got 3 incredible matchups, 3 fun matchups, big names, big programs. Netherlands and Morocco, that's the nightcap, 9 o'clock. That one should be the game of the night. I think that's maybe the most evenly matched game. I think both those teams, if I'm not mistaken, are FIFA top 10 globally. And then you have the starter today at 1 o'clock, Brazil and Japan. Now, Japan, heavy underdog there, but it's a chance to watch Brazil. Brazil's got some stars. Vinicius Jr. is one of the, I guess, growing stars in this game. He single-handedly beat Scotland last week, too, and kept me from wearing a kilt on air because Scotland didn't beat Brazil, nor did they make it out of the group stage. And then at 4:30, Germany and Paraguay. And for Canada, and for their sake, their reward for winning yesterday against South Africa is to play the winner of Netherlands and Morocco. The entire bracket is set. Don't forget, on July 1st, that is when you'll see the United States take on Bosnia in the round of 32, and you should absolutely head over to our friends at the British Bulldog and join the watch party, because those things are, what the kids would say, lit. Hour number 2, Club Tiers, SEC, that's next. Speaking of the knockout stage, it's here. The knockout round is here. It is win or go home. This is where the high drama of this international soccer tournament reaches its peak. And DraftKings has you covered for every single match, because DraftKings is live in all 50 states, which means it's live here in South Carolina. The world's biggest stage is in the palm of your hand, and new DraftKings customers can sign up with code 1075TheGame, spend $5 to get 200 in total rewards over 21 days. That's code 1075TheGame. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Event trading offered by DraftKings Predictions, a CFTC registered introducing broker. Trading involves risk of loss. Market availability varies. Eligibility restrictions apply. $50 every 7 days via click-to-claim issued in non-withdrawable predictions dollars that expire in 1 year. Ends July 19th. For terms, go to dkng.co/predictions promo.
Main Street in Lexington, right there by the courthouse, flashing yellow lights. So be careful there. Be patient in that intersection. Heavy traffic on Two Notch Road southbound between Sparkleberry Lane and I-77. We have a report of an accident on Highway 6 at Bethany Church Road, and still working on that fallen tree in Blythewood, Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road. 95 today and tomorrow, mix of clouds and sun, maybe a pop-up afternoon shower or thunderstorm today. On Wednesday, 96. Then we're in the upper 80s for the remainder of the week into the weekend. All week long, expecting heat indexes to top 100. Right now, though, 75.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jared Parker from Watch Fox, hanging out with us until 9. And, of course, the one, the only, Jen Jensen. And last week, to end the week, I created a group of tiers for SEC teams. And I wanted to dip into my history as a former bouncer to make these tiers clubs. So instead of tiers, we'll say clubs, right? They're different clubs that SEC teams are qualified to get into based off of how we are projecting them. It's talking season. So what are our expectations for these teams in the SEC? Well, I thought this may be one of the more creative ways that we can do it. And with that being said, Jen Jensen, there's only one song we can do this segment to.
Let's open up the door.
That's right. Open up the door and who gets to go in. Now, I gave mine last week. Jared Parker is going to be the bouncer today, too, because the first club, should we go from most desirable to least desirable or least desirable to most desirable?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's go most desirable.
Okay, we'll go most desirable because the most desirable club.
They got to get in first.
Yeah, because they get priority. That's right. They get priority. It's kind of like getting on a plane, right? First class gets to board the plane first, and you're getting what you pay for. However, for these teams, this club is the CFP Contender Penthouse. This suite's got everything. Don't mean to sound like Stefan from Saturday Night Live, but it has everything. All-inclusive, food, drinks, bottle service, everything you could have, and all the amenities. This is what you do the sport for, right? Is to contend for the college football playoff. If the CFP is the most coveted club, which teams in the Southeastern Conference, Jared Parker, have the pass that would be able to get by you and into the CFP contention penthouse?
Well, we're starting off at the top. They've been a perennial contender. And I think we'll see the same next year. Georgia, two-time defending champs of the conference. I think they're front of the line. Like they are getting in first. But joining them, I have Alabama.
Okay.
I think Alabama, has also been a perennial contender. We've got Texas and Texas A&M.
So Mike Elko back in the contention penthouse here.
I'm a fan. I like what Texas A&M did last year. I think we're going to see more of that this year as well.
Now, for me, I had it Georgia, Texas A&M, but I had Oklahoma and LSU with passes in it as well. I booted Alabama out.
Okay, I get that. I think I like Georgia, Texas A&M as kind of that top 3. Alabama is definitely the 4th for me in that category.
Okay.
But a lot of it, maybe it's nostalgia, whatever. Of
talent level's there. That's the thing. They still recruit at an incredibly high level.
Yes, but I think it is hard for me. They have to prove to me that they are not in contention before I take them out of it.
Your burden of proof for them to get into that club is a lot different.
Yes.
So, if they're like, oh, hey, sorry, man, I left my pass at home, but, I'm Alabama.
Yeah, right? Come on in.
I know you.
Now, if they show that they're not meant to be in the club, if they come all dressed funky, then maybe, all right, boot them out. But,
smelling a little bit.
Yeah, smelling a little bit.
If Mississippi State walked up to you and said, hey, sorry, I don't have my pass to get in, but you know me, right? And you're like, I don't know who you are. I will call the police.
Exactly. That's exactly where the Mississippi States and Arkansas of the world are.
You cannot sweet talk your way into this club.
No.
Only a few can. Alabama, as a program, has that cachet to where they leave their pass at home or whatever. They bring the wrong one or whatever. As a bouncer, you can still let them in. Give them the benefit of the doubt there. That's the CFP Contender Penthouse. But what about the Big Bowl Game Backstage VIP Club? Now, this is what I would say is about 8 to 9 wins, and you're playing in the more desirable non-college football playoff bowl games. We're talking, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. We're talking what the Outback Bowl used to be, which I guess it's now the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yeah.
We're talking still playing on New Year's Day, but it's not, or January 2nd. The Music City Bowls kind of thrusted themselves into that conversation. But you're playing in the best non-CFP bowl games. Which teams to you, Jared Parker, have that pass?
So obviously you mentioned Oklahoma and LSU. Those two are there. I know it may come as a surprise, maybe to some, that I'm not putting LSU as a CFP contender yet, but that's just another burden of proof thing. I mean, Lane
Very
Kiffin
fair.
has recruited very well to LSU, so I'm not gonna discount that. And if they are a CFP contender, I'll eat my words. Like,
I think for me with LSU is I've got them in the CFP contention penthouse, but I'm watching them closely. It's one of those things like if they act up, like if Georgia acts up in that club, I can say, hey, look, how about you just go home, sleep it off, we'll see you tomorrow night. LSU does it, we're getting you out of here pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and we will revoke membership
absolutely.
to this club so fast. I think for LSU, for me, it's more of a you better be in this in year one, or else
It looks bad.
it's going to get toxic because
Yeah.
they did not pull Lane Kiffin out of Ole Miss and go through all they went through and do all of this villainry imaging that they've undergone just for you to be 8-4.
Yeah. Now, 2027 though for them, I think that's CFP contention year. I like what
Okay.
they've done recruiting wise there.
They have.
But also joining Oklahoma and LSU, I have Vanderbilt, and then Ole Miss as well.
Buying high on Jared Curtis,
I am.
by all accounts. And from what I've been told too by friends and family that still live over in the Nashville area that went and watched him play in high school, like he's got the build. He passes the eye test for them.
Yeah, I like. I mean, it's strange because to say this, but it'll be a lot to follow up what Diego Pavia did. I know he gets a lot of hate, but he is so pivotal to Vanderbilt in where they were before him and where they are now. Like the fact that we're even talking about Vanderbilt as, a contender for big bowl games, like just on the outside of the playoffs, like that's huge credit.
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, love him or hate him, like I've got to give him credit.
Yeah, he will deserve a statue at that school, especially if they are able to continue the success. He's will be viewed as the first person to kind of change how everybody thinks about Vanderbilt football. My team's in the big bowl game backstage VIP. Say that 5 times fast. I have Ole Miss, Missouri, and Alabama in that one. Now my favorite one here, because this isn't the best club in the world, but it's kind of fun. It's a little rambunctious. It's a little rowdier, right? We have a little more tolerance for misbehavior. It's the spoiler suite, right? These are teams that will beat teams you're not supposed to, but also has the ability to lose to teams they're not supposed to.
I mean, so I've only got 2 teams in this club. So I don't know if it's a small club for me. I don't know how
Okay,
many you've
I only have 3.
Okay, so pretty small club. For me, that's where Missouri and Tennessee are.
Okay.
I do like Mizzou, but they're just in that below tier for me.
The big question of does your star player who got shot in the leg in the offseason get to play it all this year?
Correct.
Still kind of looms large.
Yes. And then Tennessee, I mean, if you want to talk about a team that loses to teams they're not supposed to and beats teams.
Quintessential, yeah.
That is Tennessee. So
Quintessential Tennessee under Josh Heupel.
yes, I think that has to be Tennessee. Yeah.
We do have some crossover there. I have Tennessee in that one as well. I also have South Carolina and Florida
Okay.
in that one. Florida
Okay.
because there's just so much unknown.
Yes.
I like John Summerall as a head coach a lot. I think what he did at Tulane is incredibly impressive. He won at Troy. Right? He's one of those guys, like everywhere he goes, he wins.
I love how bought in he is to Florida.
He's so bought in. And I love that he brought over Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech to run the offense. I think that was a very mature, grown-up hire for somebody who was making the leap into the SEC. I like a lot of the skill position players he got in the transfer portal. Eric Singleton Jr. can be one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. But there's the quarterback thing. Aaron Filo's never been asked to be a starting quarterback at the power conference level. He's kind of been the Haynes King understudy at Georgia Tech. He's presumed to be the starter at Florida.
Right.
He does know the offense, but I have a feeling in a first year as being a starter, no matter how talented you are or how much, they may like you behind closed doors, it's ripe for variance. And with a slew of new players too, maybe early in the seasons where they lose the games they're not supposed to, maybe by October, November, Florida is a much better team than maybe expected or maybe than what they looked like in September. But to me, that's perfect for spoiler. South Carolina fits here for me because I can see South Carolina maybe losing some games they're not supposed to, but I love the roster enough to where a Shane Beamer special can happen because of Lenora Sellers, Dylan Stewart, Nick Harbor, kind of your big 3 returners there.
Yeah.
I could see South Carolina maybe pulling off a win at Alabama, but then on the flip side, struggling against Tennessee, a team that, you know, you're on par with, right? Or Florida, a team that I feel like you should be on par with. So South Carolina, in terms of just the team makeup and DNA there, to me is a perfect type of spoiler. That's my spoiler suite. Now we have Motel Mid, which is born to be 5-7 or 6-6.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I guess I hate to do this because I know our fans aren't going to love this. But you haven't heard me mention South Carolina yet.
I haven't. I was wondering where they're going.
Yeah, they unfortunately for me will be in Motel Mid right now. It's another one where it's like, okay, you've got to prove it. We've seen the highs, we've seen the 9-win highs, and then we saw the lows last year.
A 4-win low.
Yeah. So do we land in the middle? Is 6 wins the middle? I think I do have them for at least 6 wins. I do have them in a bowl game, but they're going to be in Motel Mid for me. I've also got Kentucky in Motel Mid.
Okay.
I assume they're there for you as well because I think that's like Kentucky is probably the most mid team in the SEC.
They are quintessentially mid, which given what they were last year would be an improvement.
Yes.
I do like what they are for the future, though. I've got if I am the owner and operator of the spoiler suite, I've got my eye on Kentucky, making sure they're behaving in Motel Mid, and if they are able to fork over some money, you know, we might have some extra room in here.
Slide the bouncer a little something.
Everybody has a price, even your bouncers.
Yeah, and then I've got
telling you right now.
I've got Florida as well. Now again, Florida, there's so much unknown there. I do like Summerall, but Florida could also be what was the last category? The lowest.
Oh, Weenie Hut Juniors.
Weenie Hut Juniors. Yeah. I would not be surprised if Florida is also a Weenie Hut.
Oh,
I've got them in
their fans would not love that.
Oh my goodness, no, they would not. But I do like what Summerall has done. Maybe I am a bit biased in saying this because I am a Dolphins fan and we just brought Malik Willis from the Packers. But I like to say knowing your backup has, you know, some
type of starting experience or something.
Yeah. It means something. So I think we'll see that with Florida. Again, I am biased as a Miami Dolphins fan. I'm hoping that's what happens with Malik Willis and the Dolphins. So that's
I actually like Malik Willis a lot. I'm a truther.
So that's probably why I'm saying this. But I see the potential for Florida there.
So Florida in Motel Mid. Motel Mid, maybe not the greatest amenities. There are no flat screen TVs in Motel Mid. You got the box TVs, but you have all the channels that you need. They're just not in high definition. It's standard definition. You know, you get some like snack machine snacks and all that type of stuff. You know, you're limited to just domestic beers on draft. Motel Mid is just, it is what it is, right? You'd rather be there than Weenie Hut Juniors because in Weenie Hut Juniors, there is no alcohol served. There is just apple juice. You are stuck with orange slices. That is it. You have parental controls on the television, so you can't even watch ESPN. Oh, the music has the clean versions of all the songs too, and they're actually Kids Bop. So that's all there is in Weenie Hut Juniors. You get the Kids Bop version of all the music that you want to play. I've got Weenie Hut Juniors reserved for Mississippi State and Arkansas.
Same here, and Auburn. I have Auburn.
Oh, Auburn and Weenie Hut Juniors. Okay,
I got Auburn and Weenie Hut Juniors. Now that might be the most controversial, but I'm not sold on Auburn. This year, I guess this is the challenge of offseason in college football, right?
Oh, and we're definitely getting into more of this later in the show. For sure.
So I won't go too much there, but it's so hard to evaluate a team. But there's nothing from Auburn that I've seen that makes me confident that they'll be even a bowl game team. But Mississippi State and Arkansas definitely, like I will say, they definitely will not be making a bowl game. You can bookmark this. Again, this is another one where I will eat my words if I'm wrong, but I am so confident in how bad they are that they will be right there front and center at Weenie Hut Juniors, getting their banana split or whatever they serve at Weenie Hut Juniors.
They get an extra Capri Sun for being multi-year members.
Yes,
Weenie Hut Juniors.
Cherries on top, everything. Like they get the full Weenie Hut Juniors experience, which maybe isn't something you desire, but they're comfortable there.
They're there. Yeah. They love it. I think with Arkansas hiring Ryan Silverfield, they're like, we love Weenie Hut Juniors so much, we don't mind leaving this little club. But coming up next, it's the early game morning meeting with our man Jared. And here we're going to give our top 5 favorite summer sporting events. It's Sharon Tell next.
All right, guys, it is the middle of June. Maybe you've been working out since the new year when you made that resolution and you're still not getting the results that you wanted or that you used to. Well, maybe it's time to call the good folks at the Men's Clinic and Dr. Dan Baltnight, who's a respected local physician and who will get to the bottom of whatever it is that you're feeling. This isn't some nameless, faceless online program. This is an actual person who will take your results and provide them and put them into a personally tailored treatment program based on your labs and symptoms. That treatment program is absolutely free. Come in, get your initial consultation with Dr. Dan Baltnight and the Men's Clinic absolutely free. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or you can visit them online at mensclinicsc.com.
Still working on cleaning up a fallen tree in the Blythewood area, Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road. I-26 eastbound at Augusta Highway, the left lane currently blocked. So again, that's I-26 eastbound at Highway 1. That forecast, it's a hot one this week. Keep hearing about it. We're looking for highs today and tomorrow, 95, 96 on Wednesday, upper 90s on Thursday and Friday. Maybe a chance for a pop-up shower this afternoon. Not a guarantee on that, but every day this week we are expecting the heat indexes to climb to at least 100, between about 101 and 103. So hydration is your friend this week, 75 right now.
Only days away from July. And my man Jared Parker from Watch Fox is here in studio with us this morning, and I wanted to pick Jared's brain about his favorite summer sporting events, and then I'll give mine too, because it's time for a list of share and tell here for the early game morning meeting.
Good morning.
Morning.
Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Jared thinks so.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
And I felt like we could have played that song or these are a few of my favorite things from The Sound of Music, because we're about to tell you our favorite things, our favorite sporting events of the summer-specific events. And I was kind of inspired by this when watching the World Cup, not sponsored, yesterday, and saying, like, dang, I get so into this every 4 years. Is this my favorite summer occurrence? Now, it's not an every year summer occurrence, so things on the list don't have to be every summer. It just has to be a summer sporting event. So Jared and I have concocted our list of the top 5 summer sporting events we look forward to whenever the calendar hits June and July.
Yeah, I think we're going to have, I already know at least 2 of these we're going to have some concurrence on. There's a third that I think we should probably have together, but then other than that, I might be some surprises here for our listeners.
Yes, absolutely. So I think they're actually making one change right now, because I forgot a blatantly obvious one.
I like that.
But I will go ahead and I'll let you start. I'll let you start, Jared. We'll go from 5 to 1.
Okay. So number 5, I'm going the British Grand Prix.
Oh,
F1.
Okay.
Yes. It's just actually this year is the 100th anniversary of the British Grand Prix.
Oh, so they're going to do it big.
Yeah, it's got to be big. You got 2 British winners the last year, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton winning was epic. The year before that, there's been some great moments there, like some absolutely just scenes. It's a great track. Silverstone is a great track. Like, I love watching that race. It's next week, July 5th. I think that's next week, right?
Yes.
I don't know. We're close. We're coming up on July.
Wait, yeah. If it's July 5th, that'll be this
Sunday, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're coming up on July 5th very fast. So yeah, it's an absolute great race to watch.
Where does it take place? Is it in London?
I actually Silverstone. I don't know where Silverstone is. I should know, shouldn't I?
I can name like 5 British towns only because of their Premier League teams.
Okay, that's fair.
That's about the extent of my
Whatever
British
the
geography.
closest to Silverstone is that.
All right, my number 5, the British Open.
Okay.
It's now they call it the Open, but I like to distinguish a little bit. Specifically though, when it's played at St. Andrews. I'm really my golf fandom only really extends to the major tournaments. I don't get into like the Travelers this weekend. Like I didn't watch a ton of it. I kind of kept up with it because storyline's interesting, really good scores and all of that. But I really get locked into the majors. My favorite major, I would say even more than the Masters, I love the British Open because I love being able to be up at like 7 a.m. and getting to watch it early. So like sipping coffee and watching the British Open. I think the courses there are absolutely gorgeous, especially the old course at St. Andrews. That one's my number 5.
Yeah, and I made a change in my order, a little change in my order as we were speaking here. But I'll go with number 4. It's got to be Wimbledon. Might be a little low on my list. I know Wimbledon is one of the premier events of the summer. That is the one tennis tournament that I most faithfully watch all the way through. Now, I'm not watching every match, but the top contenders, big Coco Gauff fan. I mean, she's from South Florida, so I gotta support
You
Coco.
gotta rep.
And she's just such a I don't know, she's such a cool person.
I like her a lot.
Yes, exactly. So I'm rooting for Coco Gauff when it comes to any tournament. But yes, Wimbledon number 4 coming in on our list.
I want her to win a Wimbledon so bad.
Yes. Oh my
Like,
gosh.
so bad.
Scenes of Coco winning, we would go crazy.
Oh, it'd go nuts. Yeah, it'd go nuts.
And
Like,
she's
an
a
American
Dolphins
winning.
fan.
Also, naturally, the Miami connection. So there's some
Yes.
Finns representation there too. So I've always pulled for Coco Gauff. One of them were likable, like individual
easily.
athletes, like in a
Yes.
non-team sport. Like hard not to cheer for Coco Gauff. My number 4, I'll say the Summer Olympics. Now again, not every summer, but I do get pretty locked in to the Summer Olympics. I've got obviously Olympic basketball is my favorite. Men's and women's Olympic basketball is awesome for me, but I do love watching track and swimming events. Have gotten really into watching fencing.
Fencing.
I find it fascinating.
What about
It
fencing?
seems so artful.
That's interesting. I don't know if I have ever watched start to finish any fencing.
I couldn't tell you the names of any of the athletes,
Yeah, that's fair.
but I do like watching it as an event.
Do you like it now that it's more electronic?
Kind of. Even though, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, fencing cheating scandals are a lot more elaborate than you may think.
Really?
People like in the stands having, like hacked into the systems because they have the sensors on it. So as soon as, it makes contact, it goes off and judges are alerted that, contact was made. There was a fencing scandal, an international fencing scandal not too long ago where a parent had a clicker and would flub it a little bit.
Wow.
So you wouldn't think there would be a lot of cheating in fencing. Fencing's one of the
Yeah.
dirtiest sports on planet Earth.
I was
If you
gonna
ever
say,
get the
how do you
time,
even cheat in fencing?
if you
You
ever
know
get
what?
the time, the technology's made it easier to cheat.
If you're cheating in fencing, it needs to go back to take the electronic stuff off. You do it with real swords.
Yeah,
Or real,
we're
whatever
fighting
those
with
things
real
are.
swords, real danger. We'll give you a Kevlar vest, but
Absolute-
that's it.
That's it. I don't even know if they're called swords, but
You're getting poked.
You're getting a real
if
sword.
you cheat, you, my friend, your opponent has to use a sharp object and cannot use the electronic sensors.
We will turn fencing into a blood sport
I
so
think
fast.
that's amazing.
The way it was intended to be.
Well,
the way
doggone
it
it.
originally was.
Yeah, if you're now, not if you don't cheat, but if you're caught cheating, that's your punishment.
That's your punishment. I think it's a very fair punishment. We'll
here for it.
introduce an element of danger that was not intended to exist when this became a sporting event.
Right.
We'll make this more chivalrous from an old sense of the word
Yeah.
if we have to.
That's how you learn.
Well, they say if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That is
Wow.
one way to try.
I'm telling you, if you ever get bored, go down the rabbit hole. There is a rabbit hole there that certainly exists.
Wow. I had no idea.
They're really
Cheating and
trying.
fencing.
Yes.
Number 3, Jared Parker.
All right, we're going International Fight Week, UFC,
Ooh,
coming
okay.
up July 11th. Got some big fights there. Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor on the main event.
Always a draw.
Yes, Paddy Pimblett, Benoit Saint Denis. They're fighting. International Fight Week is always it's every year. They always match up some big fights. Of course, Conor McGregor is the biggest name in the sport, even though he's been inactive for 5 years that have blown
It's
by.
been 5
It's
years
been
already?
2021. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's been a long time.
It doesn't feel that long, but yeah, the time has flown. But you got the biggest name in the sport fighting. They typically always throw a big event this time of year. So yeah, this was my surprise because I don't know how many people have International Fight Week as a summer event on their calendar, but that's it for me.
I like it. I love a good surprise. My number 3 is not a surprise. I've got NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals kind of combined there. I love them both. I love a good series. That happens every year. So I got that one at number 3. We'll give you our top 2 on the other side. We'll also tell you the NL East got a lot more interesting than I think Braves fans ever wanted it to be, and we'll tell you why next.
In Blythewood, Cedar Creek Road and Wildflower Road, still a little bit of a traffic hazard as a tree has fallen. The accident I-26 eastbound at Augusta Road, be mindful of that. And Pond Branch Road at Neely Wingard Road, an accident in Lexington County. 95 today and tomorrow, just a slight chance for a pop-up shower today. By Wednesday, 96, upper 90s the rest of the week and into the weekend, including your 4th of July. It's going to be hot and humid, and we are looking for heat indexes all week, indices, between about 101 and 103. So it's going to be a hot one this week, 75 right now.
Continuing our list, mine and Jared's favorite summer sporting events. Now, we did want to clarify, like, because of our list, I was originally thinking like July on, but I did throw NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals, and that's usually in mid to late June if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you get a really good series in both of them. So I did end up kind of allowing some wiggle room. And if we're including that, then Jared does have a small amendment to
Yes, we have an amendment. British Grand Prix. I'm sorry, you're dropping off. So I'll go with my now third place, which we can say it right since it's not sponsored.
Yes, it's a non-sponsored segment, so you can let it rip.
All right, World Cup. That's number 3 for me. I don't know. It's the biggest tournament in the world.
For
seeing,
sure.
oh my goodness, seeing it in the USA, like the fun, like how many tourists have come and like trying American food and whatnot.
That's been really
like,
cool.
The World Cup is just so much bigger than just soccer. So and just like the scenes that happen with the World Cup, like the passion you see players have for it,
Drama.
the drama. Yes, I love it. That's number 3 for me.
So my number 3, was NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. My number 2, MLB All-Star Game.
Yeah, okay, that was a consideration for me.
Yeah, I love it. Now I'll group the Home Run Derby in there with it as a standalone. It's not Home Run Derby, but like the back-to-back days of Home Run Derby, Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Like I love the Major League Baseball regular season, but because there's 162 games for each team, it can be hard to be just locked in 100% all the time. So I do find myself kind of weaving in and out and watching it. So I can, watch Red Sox Yankees last night. But I do really love the All-Star Game, which is the collection of all the best players. That's the All-Star Game that's probably still the most entertaining.
Yeah,
Now, like
and most meaningful.
Yeah, and it was definitely the most meaningful for a while when it came to that game determining who had home field advantage in the World Series, which in hindsight, incredibly silly, but I'm kind of here for the silliness, right?
Right.
Yeah, as silly as it was, but to me, the MLB All-Star Game and getting to see just star-studded pitcher hitting matchups, and you do oftentimes get like pretty close games, and there's still, as much as it's changed, as Major League Baseball has kind of made it to where two leagues aren't so different anymore, because back in the day those teams just never saw each other. Interleague play was either very scarce or not at all, and you had one league that pitchers hit, one league where you had the DH, and then having to see years in which the All-Star Game was at a National League park and an American League pitcher would have to hit would always be funny, but then you got American League parks where you got to throw in an extra DH, which is, to me, the way the Lord intended, to have just better hitters in your lineup, just a better viewing experience. But hard to beat the MLB All-Star Game for me. I have that at number 2.
Now, is the Home Run Derby as a solo event? Could that be in the top 10? Because it's definitely in my
top 10. Yeah, top 10 for sure. But
Okay.
as a solo event, not top 5, I would say.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll go with my number 2, which now is going to be the NBA and NHL Stanley Cup Finals. I'm a big. I mean, I grew up basketball, my number 1 sport. Hockey has been something I got into not so recently, but later in like my teenage years.
Okay.
But I just love that time of year. That's playoff basketball and playoff hockey are two irreplaceable feelings. Like especially like I got to go to the Canes Panthers game 5 last year when the Panthers knocked off the Kings
Oh,
on
yes.
our way to a Stanley Cup win.
One of two back to back.
Yes, but gotta brag a little, and
Yeah,
we're
you
coming
have
back.
to.
By the way, we're coming back.
You have to.
Um,
Traded Matthew Tkachuk, though.
Yes. Yeah, we got Brady. Yeah. But yeah, being in those environments, just the tension you feel. Like it's so much tension. Like it's almost like you can feel it yourself. It's irreplaceable. Like there's no feeling like it.
It's perfect. My number one is the World Cup. It must be because of everything that you said that you laid out there too. I think there's the international element, which is really neat. This year, it being in America has been one of my favorites because of the cultural exchange that we've gotten to see on the internet all over the place. A lot of people, from overseas getting to come to America and experience this place for the first time. Many of them has been really cool to see. It's been cool to see, the Norwegian fans go to a Mets Cubs game and have more fun than any human being has ever had watching the New York Mets play baseball in person. All of that is really cool. But then the event itself, too, like the high drama, the stars always show out. And you get legendary moments in this thing every 4 years. And I think part of why it is so exciting is because you're not getting it every year. So
Yeah.
World Cup summers are always my favorite because I love the format. I don't love the expansion in terms of what it does to the group stage. But I think now that we have, a round of 32 to add to your round of 16 and forward, I think that does give it a different element. Watching Canada beat South Africa yesterday in the manner in which they did and be able to win a knockout stage game for the first time in their nation's history, we're going to see more of those type of stories, which I think does enhance the event a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely love the first, as we mentioned earlier with the World Cup. For me, number one's going to be Summer Olympics. I was surprised you had it a little low on your list. I thought it would be higher.
It was tough. That one's a tough one to rank. I do love the Summer Olympics. I think I just get more amped for the World Cup and playoffs and all that type of stuff.
I mean, I will say, I think the World Cup, definitely the passion level is like high. I don't know that we can say the passion is as intensified in like one spot for the Summer Olympics. Because like when you talk about basketball with the USA running the table, it's like, is it fun to watch? Yes, but like it doesn't, I don't know if it means more to them than an NBA Finals win. So maybe the passion isn't there as much, but I am a big USA wrestling fan.
Okay.
So watching Olympic wrestling is freestyle wrestling. I'm not really a Greco-Roman wrestling fan.
Okay.
But
Specifics.
specifics. Watching wrestling is a lot of fun. And then just also seeing all the other sports that you don't really get. Fencing, for example. The sports that you don't usually get into that, is kind of just on and you're like, hey, let's handball. Water
Handball's kind of fun to watch
yeah,
too,
like stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I never watched these sports, but they're fun sports to watch. I don't know anybody who's out there, but let's do it, USA.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it too. I don't have to know the names of anybody, but I am locked in whenever it happens. And the Olympics, it's kind of like drinking through a fire hose too, because of just all the events going on at once. Before we get out of here too, a bad week for the Braves and the West Coast. Giants got the best of them. What was an 11-game lead just a couple of weeks ago is now dwindled to 3. And this was predictable for me because I knew the Phillies would get hot, but I didn't know it would happen this fast. That's my big surprise here is I did not know this would happen this fast, that the Braves would kind of drool on themselves when they went to the West Coast. Bad series against the Padres, bad series against the Giants. That's now a 3-game lead, and it's not just the Phillies too, right? Like the objects in this mirror are closer than they appear, and I see the Marlins there too.
Hey.
Marlins actually playing good baseball.
Yeah, for once in my life. I
I'd say, how old would you have been when they won their last World Series in 03?
I would have been 1 1/2, just about.
So
Yeah.
no cognitive memory of the Marlins winning the World
None.
Series.
The Marlins, as far as my existence, have been the most pitiful franchise in South Florida and one of the most pitiful that I've known. I mean, we've hardly even made although the Dolphins they have a pretty
The Dolphins have a
nasty
pretty streak too, yeah.
nasty streak of no playoff wins. So, but yeah, it's been a while. But I mean, what's gone wrong with the Braves?
Dude, to me, they haven't been hitting. Like the hitting has just gotten atrocious lately. They've just quit hitting the ball. Bryce Elder has kind of fallen off the face of the earth when it comes to pitching. Like his numbers have dipped pretty significantly. it's a slump. I think they'll be back, and I still think they'll win the division, but it's going to be a lot harder than I thought it was like a week ago. But coming up next, another NBA trade. This time I like it for the local team. I'll tell you why next. if you're a fan of that professional basketball team up in Charlotte, you might have been a little disappointed last week. You might have been a little perturbed with what went down in terms of trading LaMelo Ball. Now, I understand the basketball side of this, but at the same time, too, it's a business.
Yeah.
And the Charlotte Hornets haven't necessarily had a lot to be excited for their fan base.
No.
And you see that in having your best season in 10 years, and it's been a struggle ever since you came back to Charlotte.
Yeah.
In terms of when you became the Bobcats and you didn't have a lot of successful seasons, and you get a little bit of a taste, right? You get like a micro dosing of like NBA success, and you trade LaMelo Ball. Well, there's another trade yesterday. Now another starter on that team has been traded. That is Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges sent to the Phoenix Suns along with a 2029 first-round pick and a second-round pick. They get in return Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and a 2033 first-round pick. So some seventh grader somewhere is destined to be drafted by the Suns but have to put on a Charlotte Hornets hat.
Oh, my goodness. Maybe some seventh grader in Nashville or something.
Could be. If you're a seventh grader listening to this right now, it can be you. You can be a Charlotte Hornet because of this trade right here. You may not know it yet, but you can be a Hornet because the Hornets shipped off Miles
Do
Bridges.
you want to be a Hornet?
Do you want to be? Is that a fate worse than death? I think some people can make the case that it is.
Man, it's interesting to see this with the Hornets because it's, as you said, like this team had some hope. The Hornets are, I think, at least that I can remember, the first team that I've seen rebuild for like 3 years and somehow get worse each year of the rebuild. Usually when you start the rebuild, like that's the worst.
Because it's stripped down to the studs. Usually it doesn't
Exactly.
get worse than being stripped down to the studs.
Yeah, but they've done it where in multiple years of rebuild, they somehow were worse than the last year rebuild. And it's very disappointing to me to watch this because this is a team. I mean, the fans of the Charlotte Hornets at the time when they were the Bob, they had to watch a 7-win team. The worst, the absolute worst, like by a far stretch, the worst team in NBA history.
7-59. And it would have
Yes.
been worse if it wasn't a lockout shortened season.
I know you would have had to watch even more of that atrocious basketball. So it's like, this is the first time I can remember in a while. I mean, Kemba Walker definitely those years provided some hope, but I think this was different because Kemba was a star in himself. Obviously, Al Jefferson years where I loved Al Jefferson, but
All reliable.
oh my goodness, his
Big Al.
footwork, yeah, like that
It's a
dude was
throwback.
nice. He was nice. But this is the first time I felt like Hornets fans could look at a team. You got a 24-year-old LaMelo Ball and pieces around him where it looked like the team was going to be better and continue to grow together. And now it's just confusing. I mean, like Grayson Allen, whatever. Like,
He's a 3-point shooter now at this
Yeah.
point in his career.
which is like you have Khan, like you've got your sharpshooter. I don't know how much Grayson will really play.
He's going to be bench Con Knippel.
Exactly.
When Con can't play, Grayson's playing.
Exactly. It doesn't seem like, as far as fan bases go, it doesn't seem like anybody wanted Julius Randle.
No, you could not give Julius Randle away.
Yeah, the Wolves fans were very happy to see him gone, and the Hornets fans seemed very saddened to see him there. So it's very interesting. Like you talk about making a move for the sake of making a move. We may be in that territory here. It's a little interesting. I feel like you could have gotten more for LaMelo.
Yeah, I think you probably could have gotten more. And I like Naz Reid a lot. I think
Yeah.
I think if you're going to give up LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, I think you got a lot of really good role players in return.
You did.
And if you're building around Knippel and Brandon Miller, which I think they are, I'm all for. I think those two guys were them getting better is the reason the Hornets got better. I think
Yes.
LaMelo Ball he is what he is at this point. Those guys being as good as they were, because Brandon Miller was awesome this year. Like he's living up to being a number 2 pick. I think in the long run, it's going to be beneficial, but for a franchise that just had, you won 44 games and it felt like your best season since you returned to Charlotte because you had such a great offense and you were so good from January on, that it is kind of a kick to the groin of those fans. It's like, oh,
Yes.
okay, well, I thought we were going to make moves to, advance further. And maybe you do in a couple of years. But I have a hard time asking patience of fans who have already been patient for decades.
Yeah. The confusing thing to me, too, is, again, LaMelo Ball is 24 years old. When you look at a team like this, usually the young teams, when you've got Brandon Miller and Khan, you go until the wheels fall off, and it's like you're abandoning this a little early.
Yeah, it's certainly what it feels like. Coming up next, though, to kick off the early game third and long hour, will the real Lenora Sellers please stand up? What are we expecting from Lenora Sellers in 2026? We'll get Jared Parker's take from Watch Fox coming up next here on the early game. We're here. The excitement of the knockout stage is here, and you can get involved with our friends at DraftKings because DraftKings is live in all 50 states, including the great state of South Carolina. So it doesn't matter if you're catching one of those early kickoffs before work or if you're hanging out at the bar late night to catch the last games. You can be in on every minute, every match, every dramatic moment of the knockout round. You can be involved in with DraftKings. New DraftKings customers can sign up with code 1075TheGame. Spend $5 to get 200 in total rewards over 21 days. That's code 1075TheGame because in partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Event trading offered by DraftKings Predictions, a CFTC registered introducing broker. Trading involves risk of loss. Market availability varies. Eligibility restrictions apply. $50 every 7 days via click-to-claim issued in non-withdrawable predictions dollars that expire in 1 year. Ends July 19th. For terms, go to dkng.co/predictions promo.
Busher Road at I-20, have an accident there. Also, I-26 eastbound at I-20 eastbound at I-26. I-26 eastbound at Augusta Highway. Also, Lake Murray Boulevard at Columbiana Drive and Pond Branch Road at Neely Winger. Definitely gotten busier as the morning has progressed. 95 today and tomorrow, 96 on Wednesday, upper 90s the rest of the week, and heat index over 100 really expected most of this week. So enjoy the cooler temperatures this morning of 76.
The early game third and long hour starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jared Parker from Watch Fox 57. Jen Jensen producing the show, and our man Randy Young in the video production room here at Studio 803, where we do the final hour of every early game. And Jared, because we got you in here, we haven't had you on in a long time.
Yeah.
This is your first time stepping foot in Studio 803. We've moved some things around
I see.
since the last time you've been here. But we haven't been able to talk a ton about this South Carolina football team because we're barreling into talking season, right? I mean, we're 2 days away from July. We're less than a month away from SEC Media Days. Now we can really, to me, when July hits is when you get really into the national college football scene. But when it comes to South Carolina's perception, I think from a national perspective, it kind of begins and ends with what Lenora Sellers you're going to see. You saw in 2024, especially in those last 6 weeks, a quarterback that convinced a large chunk of America going into last year that he was the best quarterback in college football. Now, in 2025, I think we're all very well familiar with how it all went down. Well-documented struggles with the offensive line. That's why Lonnie Teasley was fired after the LSU game. Well-documented struggles with the offensive coordinator position and play calling. That's why Mike Shula was fired after the Ole Miss game. And I think a large part of that, those are the reasons why you might have seen Lenoris struggle the way he did. And I think because of the production or lack thereof of Lenoris in 2025, you felt the need to make those in-season changes because you've got a guy that anybody can watch and agree has a lot of talent and a lot of ability. And you needed more from the quarterback position. And I think that's one of the reasons why all of that together gets you to the 4-8 mark, despite being really close in a lot of games and maybe losing in some fine margins here or there when you think about LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, those type of losses. But Jared, with the 2 seasons of Lenora Sellers that we've seen as the starter, which Lenora Sellers do you find to be closer to the real version of what he is and what we can expect from him this season?
I mean, I'm inclined to believe that the Lenora Sellers we saw the first year, that's the real Lenora Sellers. I think this last year had so much wrong with it. Like you mentioned, the offensive line. The offense looked stale at times. I mean, that first half against Texas A&M, to me, that was when we saw this offense and what it's supposed to be. Now, obviously, there was a magnificent collapse in that game.
Unfortunately, you had to play the second half of that game.
So we won't speak so much about what happened in the second half, but I think that first year Lenora Sellers, we saw him use the gifts of his physical abilities. He is one of the strongest quarterbacks. I think one of the hardest to tackle quarterbacks in the nation. Maybe the hardest to tackle quarterback when you talk about a mix of speed, strength, and elusiveness. We got to see him use his arm strength. We got to see him make decisions and continuously make the right decision time after time. I don't know that we got to see the best of his physical abilities so much. It did seem like, this offense maybe wasn't suited to him. And I know there was so much made with Shula working with Cam Newton and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know that Lenoris is a Cam Newton per se. I think those comparisons, it's natural to make them, I guess, because of Shula and because of what Lenoris could do. But he's not Cam Newton. He's not that type of player. Lenoris can sit in the pocket a little bit more, but I think we need to see an offense that gets Lenoris moving and uses your full 11 players as a true advantage against defenses.
And that's when it comes to Lenoris, I feel like there's a lot of ifs and then situations, right? If your offensive line holds up, then maybe you can see Lenoris be better in terms of decision-making from the pocket. Or maybe he doesn't have to scramble around as much and bail out of pockets, right? I think that's a big if. Or if Kendall Briles is able to fully understand what the capabilities of his offensive line are and be able to scheme around it or scheme towards what just works with the personnel you have. And I think you can trust Kendall Briles, realistically trust him to get that out of this offense because he's done it time after time in different schools and different locations with completely different personnel groupings. I think what you'll see from Lenora Sellers, if I had to put, a benchmark to it, is a lot of what you saw in 2024 with a lot of quick actions, a lot of fast decisions being made, not total, West Coast offense where it's a lot of screen passes, because I do think if the offensive line is holding up in your and you're getting a lot out of pass protection, then you're going to see them dial up long balls to Nick Harbor, because that's one thing Preston and I talked about a lot is you didn't have a lot of plays or things that worked offensively last year, but you were due for one a game of, hey, Nick, run deep, outrun everybody in the secondary. Lenoris is going to find it, and it's the, screw it, Nick Harbor down there somewhere play, and that worked a lot. And I think with Kendall Briles being the offensive coordinator, if we're trying to project what Lenoris Sellers looks like, I think you've got a play caller and an offensive architect in place to be able to create a better final product as well as a better aesthetically pleasing product on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like you said, we're due for one of those Nick Harbor plays every game. I was disappointed with how little we saw it connect. I think that between Lenoris and Nick, there's a lot more connection to be had. And it's, as you mentioned, there's those if-then statements. If this happens, I mean, you talk about Lenoris having to scramble for his life. I mean, he looked like, at times, Patrick Mahomes against the Bucs in that Super Bowl.
Where he's having to scramble because, Mike Renner at left tackle is a turnstile, and he's being terrorized by Shaq Barrett for 4 quarters.
Yeah, like that was part of Lenoris' reality. And I think we just he never really got the chance to settle in. I think we saw him look settled in that first drive against Virginia Tech.
The best drive of the offense the entire season.
Yeah, a very hopeful drive for South Carolina. And then after that, we didn't see him settle, and that's no fault of his own. So I think when you mentioned the if-then statements, there's a lot of ifs with this team. There's a lot of ifs with Lenoris. But I think if you have a serviceable offensive line, you already know your wide receiver core is plenty capable.
Certainly.
I think as long as the offensive line is serviceable, you will see a great year from Lenoris Sellers.
And I think the running game is going to have a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
I think when I'm comparing different Kendall Briles offenses, kind of throughout his time as an offensive coordinator, whether it's Baylor in his early days, or Florida Atlantic for a year, or his time at TCU, or the 1 year at Florida State and 1 year at Houston, I look at the Arkansas years as the one that I think might be the one that's most suitable for the personnel that he's got, mostly just because of the quarterback skill set. I do think Lenoris Sellers is a better quarterback than KJ Jefferson was. And I liked KJ Jefferson a lot at Arkansas, but I look at Lenoris Sellers and I see maybe more ability with accuracy. Maybe he can make more types of throws. They both have incredibly strong arms. I think Lenoris Sellers is faster than KJ Jefferson was. Yeah. KJ's just built like a tank, right? He's kind of built like a tight end.
I mean, you talk about hard to tackle.
I mean, the guy might have been a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tackle, right? I mean, that's how big KJ Jefferson was. So like, there's a little bit of there's differences there, but Traylon Burks as a wide receiver at Arkansas became a first-round pick because Kendall Briles knew, hey, that's our best receiver on the team. Get that guy the football and get him a 1,000-yard season. That our offense is going to work best that way. I think Nick Harbor is going to kind of fit in that Traylon Burks mold. Like, you like what you have with a lot of receivers, but the run game with Arkansas also helped a lot. Now, they had Rocket Sanders, we're very familiar with here, and Rocket tore it up in the SEC under Kendall Briles being his offensive coordinator. So there's that element to this, but you look at that running back room, and somebody's going to have to step up and kind of be that guy. I think a lot of people are expecting it to be Matt Fuller because of the accolades he got during the spring. Yeah. But I look at somebody like Christian Clark, too, who, I mean, I'm operating on a one-game sample size here. I'm operating on just his performance in the bowl game against Michigan because that's when he finally got to get the lion's share of carries. But if that running game is really good, I think out of all the if-then scenarios you have with this offense, if you're able to establish a really good running game, that offensive line is a good run blocking unit, not just having one good run blocker, but a good unit, that's going to make things so much easier for Lenoris and Kendall Briles too, because now you have just so much flexibility with what you can do in different situations.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I'm at fault of this too. I think the run game has been an understated point of this offseason with this team that's obviously very important. I mean, we don't know who's going to be that guy for South Carolina. And to be fair, we didn't completely know maybe last year. I think the assumption was Rasul Faison, but it ended up being a committee. I really love the way Matt Fuller played in the second half of the year. He had some big games. And I think if we can see some of that with an improved offensive line, we're going to see a lot from the South Carolina team if they can establish the run how they should. But yeah, that's been a way understated point because, I mean, you've got to establish the run. Everyone knows that. Or who knows, maybe you don't. Air it out.
Schools of thought, different schools of
There are
thought.
schools of thought. There are some people who say you don't have to establish the run. I think this team needs to establish the run, but
I think it would behoove them to be able
Yes.
to run the ball. Even if you're not doing it, to me, even if you're not running the ball 40 times, my thing is if you don't have an incredibly strong run game that's putting up, or producing 1,000-yard rusher or, someone who's scoring 15 to 20 touchdowns in a season or putting up ridiculous numbers, if that's not like your offense's identity, I think you have to have the ability to do it because of certain situations when the field shrinks. I think red zone offense changes a lot if you're able to run the ball because it's harder to pass in the red zone. Because space will shrink once you get closer to the goal line. You've got to have somebody, whether it's a 4th and short or a 3rd and short, or you're in a goal line situation. Like, can your big guys get enough push, and can you have a running back that is able to help push the pile a couple extra yards too? To me, running situationally is as important is more important than running on early downs. My thing with this team is, do you have a guy that you can trust when it's 3rd and 3, and maybe you're playing in an elite secondary, and you have to run the ball, or everybody in the stadium knows you're gonna run the ball. And as much as as good of a runner as Lenoris is, having somebody in the backfield that the defense has to at least account for to get that ball in that situation is going to loom pretty large once you get into a lot of these really tight situations in October and November.
yeah, and from what I saw from Matt Fuller at the end of the year, I think he is that guy.
I think he certainly can be.
I think he is that dude. Again, he had some big games. He really wasn't on my radar at all coming into the year. So it was almost like he came out of nowhere. It felt like.
Yeah, he was like kind of like that in the action movie, it's the bomb, but the bomb doesn't have the little timer on it, right? So you're waiting for it to explode. You're waiting for the explosion to happen. And I think when you saw the 72-yard touchdown run in the LSU game, you said, "Oh, there is something there with him."
Yes, that's true. And then as far as Clark goes, again, 1 game sample size. I don't want to
Very
put
small.
too many expectations on him because there's so little that we're working off of. But to perform as well as he did in a bowl game is very promising. And I think it's pretty much the meta nowadays, unless you have a very star-studded running back. Even when there are those star-studded running back rooms, you think about like some of the old Georgia days, like it's
They had
still
some.
they had multiple stars in one room. It's still by committee. I mean, you think some of the Alabama days, it's of their best running backs. It's still by committee. So you're going to need multiple running backs to do multiple things for you.
With multiple skill sets too. And I think that's one thing that Kendall Briles is probably looking at the most as we're getting ready for the season. Once they get ready for August camp, is what can these running backs do in certain situations? Because really, running the ball does for you is allow you so much flexibility or an ability to kind of keep some plays in your back pocket. And maybe the biggest question mark on this team isn't just can you protect 16. I think protecting 16 is very high on that priority list. Can you just run the ball at all? And I think when we're projecting seasons for different teams, media members or people that are kind of, prognosticators of the college football season might look at that running back room and say, I just don't know what your running game looks like. And that's why you might see South Carolina maybe in that 10 to 12 range once we actually get ballots out here in 20-something days, here in about 3 weeks or so.
I think July 21st.
Yeah, July
SEC Media
21st
Days.
in Tampa.
Yes.
Don't. Still confused as to why we're going to Tampa for this, but you know what? I'll go wherever they send me. If they want to do this in Flagstaff, I'll go to Flagstaff for SEC Media Days if that ever end up being the case. But coming up next, though, Jared and I put SEC teams into tiers, but they were also clubs. We'll revisit that conversation and discuss which club is South Carolina in. We'll discuss that next year on the early game. So I'll have Acton.
When was Shane Hot Seat again?
I meant to bring that up in the last segment.
Okay, no worries.
You know, we can weave that in as a
Okay.
as a part of this one. We can weave that in. Jared and I were just talking about if-then scenarios as it relates to Gamecock football, but if your if-then scenario involves business tax issues or personal income tax issues, John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm are your then. If you have these issues, then give the Ecton Law Firm a call. Pretty simple, 803-771-9800. That's the phone number that you got to call to start up the free consultation and get this whole process going, right? Because with the Ecton Law Firm, they have been working with thousands of families and businesses just like yours complete that if-then scenario, right? All here in South Carolina. This local team has been doing this for decades. So no matter what you present to them as your problem, it's nothing that they can't handle or mostly haven't even seen before. 803-771-9800. That's the phone number to call to take that first step closer to a worry-free life and escape that IRS maze. You can also hit them up online too at ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com.
Still have an accident in progress, Bush River Road at I-20 Also in Blythewood, Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road in the process of trying to get a fallen tree cleared away. And Malfunction Junction, living up to its name this morning, I-20 eastbound at I-26. As we mentioned today in the forecast, we're looking for a high of about 94 today and tomorrow, 96 on Wednesday, upper 90s for the remainder of the week and into the weekend. It's going to be a hot July 4th, that is for sure. Heat index could be each and every day between 101 and 103 this week. So it is going to be warm. It is currently 80 on 107.5 The Game.
We broke up SEC teams into tiers, but instead of just your traditional tier list, we made them clubs. Now, here are the clubs that exist, right? And we're going to talk about South Carolina's place in these clubs, and specifically whether or not it can get Shane Beamer off of what you'd consider a hot seat, right? So here's how we've kind of broken this up. There's the College Football Playoff Contender Penthouse, reserved for your Georgias, your Texas A&M. I think that was the crossover that Jared and I had with a couple of changes in between. But then you have the big bowl game backstage VIP club. That's where teams that are going to the ReliaQuest Bowl, which they should still be the Outback Bowl. That's one sponsorship that should have never changed. And also like the Music City Bowl and the Citrus Bowl, which South Carolina was in just a couple of years ago. That's the big bowl game backstage VIP club. Then there's the spoiler suite, which we've kind of reserved for the high variance teams that could beat anybody on your schedule. You have the potential to beat the toughest game or beat the toughest teams no matter where you play them, but you also have the potential to lose to teams that you're not supposed to lose to or lose big leads, right? It's a club filled with unpredictability, right? They have a lot of fun in that club, but there's also a lot of misery to be had as well. Then you have Motel Mid, which are your 5-7, 6-6, maybe your 7-5 teams. You kind of play to the script. You can do their win-loss game, play the schedule game with them early in the season and get pretty accurate as to what the season's going to be. And then you have Weenie Hut Juniors, which is reserved for your Mississippi States and your Arkansas. No alcohol served there. You get Capri Suns. You get, there's parental controls on the TV, and the music is all Kids Bop. That's it. That is all that is being played at Weenie Hut Juniors. But for Shane Beamer, though, in order for him to get out of the hot seat conversations, Jared Parker, what club does Shane need to see himself partying in December of 2026?
It's hard to say because I did have them in Motel Mid, and I do think if you make a bowl game, that extends Shane's lifespan at least for a year. Because, I mean, like, I don't know if I'd call it hot seat yet, but it's kind of like, I don't know. Have you had a pedicure before?
I love pedicures.
So you know when the water's like
I'm due for one.
A little bit warm. It's a little bit too warm, but not warm enough to say anything.
Where you're sitting there, you're handling it, and it's like, I'll feel fine in like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but
I
right
think,
now
like,
this water is hot.
Yes, I think that's where we're at with Shane right now. Like, you're not ready to jump out yet, but it's like, okay, like.
Can we turn this down a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. You need something to happen. I think a 7-win season would be promising. 6 will get you to a bowl game, but I think one thing we've seen with Jeremiah Donati, he is willing to see things out.
Yes.
I think we're seeing that with Lamont Paris right now, where he's like, he made the statement where it seemed like it was like, okay, like we need to give them more. I think he tried with Maneri. I'll say he tried.
I think there was a genuine attempt to try to make that work, because I think Paul Maneri got what I like to call the Luke Fickell conundrum here, where it's like, okay, you say you don't have enough money or enough resources, we'll give you this, but we need to see it now.
Yeah, and didn't see it. I think that's where we're at with Shane Beamer right now. I think Donati will wait and see if they make a bowl game, but you cannot miss a bowl game. I think so much that's different from college sports compared to like pro sports is with the time to wait is your fans are your bottom line is so dependent on the fans, and once you lose the fans, that is a hard task to get them back in the stadium. So, South Carolina fans, Columbia, they're not going to accept another 4-win season. It's just not going to happen. I don't
can't.
know if you reach that far. And the other thing is, too, with Shane Beamer now, there's no excuses because you fired your offensive line coach, you fired your offensive coordinator. You went up the ladder. What's next?
And it's year 3 under your with your quarterback as the starter. Like Lenore Sellers, I think, is maybe the most tied to Shane Beamer player because of mostly the importance of the position, but also that's Shane's guy, right? That was your find. That was your diamond in the rough find. A 3-star that was going to go play at Syracuse. You were able to get flipped, and a guy you believed in when he was the backup behind Spencer Rattler, and you saw him in practice and said, this guy's going to be our starter. Like, there's a lot hinged on Lenoris's production, not just to winning ball games, but for Shane's job security too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you go into a year where there's no excuses. You can't blame the offensive line coach. He's your guy. You can't blame the offensive coordinator. You cannot blame the quarterback because we've seen Lenoir's. If South Carolina does not succeed with the recruiting that Shane Beamer has done, with the staff that he's built, his staff, with his quarterback, his gem that he found, developed, and now is playing at the level that he's at, there's only one place you can go from there.
Yeah, and that's why, like, if they end up in Motel Mid at the end of the season, maybe you survive it, maybe you don't. Motel Mid for Shane Beamer in South Carolina would be maybe Motel Mid because maybe you get to stay there for a while, right? But that bouncer might be knocking on that door because the teams that you built, like 2024 gave you a proof of concept that this can work, that you can win here. With Lenora Sellers, you can win here. With the players that you were able to bring into the transfer portal and the hits they had on that team, like getting Kyle Kennard and Demetrius Knight, I think were 2 of the biggest transfer portal additions in the history of this program, or at least in the Shane Beamer era, right? Where you can look at it and say those guys made incredible differences and you were able to have a really special season. If you bring a lot of those key contributors back and you go 4-8 one year and then you're still kind of Motel Mid the next, then patience will run out. Yeah. So I don't know if Motel Mid is survivable. Spoiler Suite might be survivable if you can still prove that the Shane Beamer special is still on the menu, right? That you can, like, say you go to Alabama and you win. And I think that one may be more winnable than some people think because I've got a lot of if-thens for Alabama.
Okay.
Maybe more if-thens than South Carolina. I think there's a ton there. I think because the talent level that they're able to recruit every year kind of makes their if-thens harder to predict if they're getting the best out of it.
The floor is a little higher with them.
And with one of those if-thens being the quarterback situation, because we don't know who, like, is it Keelan Russell? Is it Austin Mack? I think we're assuming it's Keelan Russell, but you still have to replace a quarterback, and you have to be able to find something of a run game because they just quit running the ball last year. But if you're able to pull off a win like that, and that win ages gracefully throughout the course of the entire season, and maybe you do have a slip up here or there, so you're firmly in the spoiler suite, but not maybe big bowl game, backstage VIP, maybe you can survive. I think it's a survivable spoiler suite if you're able to end there. If you're Shane Beamer, I think the conversation maybe begins and ends with getting out of Motel Mid. If you can be able to, take your partner to that higher end club, then maybe they're impressed with you enough to stay with you.
Yeah, and I think that's where the hot seat question goes, because Motel Mid, that definitely, it's enough to stay, you just
don't want to be there very long.
You don't want to be there long. You don't want to be a Motel Mid long. It's, I think the walls are kind of funky and whatnot. Like,
it still smells like, they didn't differentiate between smoking and non-smoking, so it still kind of smells
exactly
like someone who's been ripping heaters in there.
You could stay a night or two, but once you get there long, it's the clock's running. So
if the whole vacation's at Motel Mid, then it's not going to be a happy family.
Yeah, that's just a quick road trip stop.
That's right. So, that's on the way too.
And I think that's what Gamecock fans are hoping last year was, just a quick road trip stop on the way to, I'm not expecting another 9-win season. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I would not rule it out. But if you can get to that 6-win, that 7-win range, maybe even that 8-win range, I think that's a happy range, not somewhere you also want to stay. You do want to get into the 9-10 win range and plus. And I think eventually you will have to churn out some of those seasons if Shane Beamer wants to be here long term. But I think a 6 or 7 win season, you can live with that right now.
Coming up next, though, the early game third and long hour goes deep. This week, we're talking about talking season, and we'll tell you about part 1 next.
Still working that earlier slowdown, 12th Street extension near Frink Street. So that's one accident to make you aware of. Also, Cedar Creek Road at Wildflower Road, a fallen tree, still trying to get that cleaned up. And I-20 eastbound at I-26, a report of an accident there. Heat is what we're looking at all week long this week. 94 today and tomorrow, 96 on Wednesday. And heat index will be reaching 100 to 103 all week long. We'll be in the upper 90s towards the end of the week and for your holiday weekend. Currently, it's already jumped up to 80 this morning on 107.5 The Game.
Time for the early game third and long hour to go deep this week because we are making the transition from June to July. We're getting into official talking season. And when I say official, it's only official because I said it is, right? Like it is Elijah Campbell official here that is talking season as soon as July hits, because then you get into the fun, nitty-gritty college football preview stuff. But what I wanted to talk about this week for this series is talking season. And part one is pretty simple. Like, what makes evaluating teams in the offseason so much more difficult? There are a couple of obvious things, but maybe a couple of not so obvious things here. Because this time last year, Jared Parker, you were looking at a lot of college football prognosticators and a lot of people picking maybe Clemson to win the national championship, LSU to win the national championship, Texas to win the national title, or Penn State to win the title. And now Texas still had a good year. They're 9-3, disappointed compared to what the expectation was. But Clemson and Penn State were disasters, right? Compared to, again, what the expectation was. And with Penn State, they fired James Franklin before we got out of the middle of October. And with LSU, they fired Brian Kelly in November. So you saw a lot of those teams that you expected to be really good. And you have a couple of those every year, because I think the number is you're averaging like 2.5 to almost 3 teams that are preseason top 10 every year that go unranked by the time the end of the year rolls around. Yeah. So that's already a thing. But when it comes to predicting the college football season, I feel like in 2026, it's so much more difficult, even if somebody lands a bunch of high caliber transfers or has a really good recruiting class or has a program filled with stability. There's still some other things, too, that I think just need to go right that's almost impossible to predict when you're sitting here in July.
Yeah, I mean, I think Penn State is a good example of that when you look at how much they brought back. Drew Aller was a projected first rounder by many. I will say, Drew Aller, as I mentioned, I covered Penn State for 2 seasons. He was never on my big board.
You were never a Drew Aller truther.
No, I was so confused when I saw people calling him a first rounder, because I was on the sidelines there for 2 years, the 2 years that he started, and I was like, I thought I was stupid, because I was like, is there something I'm not seeing? Like, I genuinely was like, maybe I just don't know ball. But I've been proven right in that sense.
Vindicated.
Yes, I've been vindicated.
That guy did not get better one day. What Drew Aller was when he stepped foot on Penn State's campus was the same Drew Aller when he left and got drafted.
Yes, you could argue that his very first game was his best game, which is never a great sign.
No, you never want that. Absolutely not.
I think Penn State was a great example of why it's so hard to have these preseason conversations, because with a Drew Aller, with a denied Dennis Sutton, Tony Rojas on defense, you had Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in the backfield, like 2 of the best Penn State rushers ever in their program history together. They were supposed to be a national title contender, especially seeing what they did the season before.
Yeah, both those guys ran for over 1,000 yards.
Exactly. So you're supposed to only get better. And like, they had just an absolutely disappointing season by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, disappointing for them would have been like a 9-win season after what they did this season.
Yeah, that even still would have been. And just missing a 12-team college football playoff in general.
But to barely sneak into a bowl game, it's just an example of, I think, college football today. It's so hard to predict, because when you miss pieces and you bring in pieces that you don't know how they're going to fit with teams, I don't know. I never know what to say now, which is why I say, and you say there's so many if-then statements. I hate to put out all these ifs because I know people want certainty, but it's just so much that changes that we can't know.
I find it to be so much harder now. I mean, like I first kind of got into sports media in 2018 to where now, my work is not just, me sitting at home before school doing a top 10 list or something, or, talking to me and my friends about who I think is going to be really good this year or who's going to flop and all this type of stuff. Now, your name's on your work and your work becomes public. I find the exercise to do harder now than I did when I first started in this. And of course, in 2018, you're really on the precipice of all of these changes that college sports would end up going through. I think the one thing that's made things become more unpredictable, Jared, is a lot of foundational things like chemistry and just people, like the human element of this, right? Clemson, for example. They checked every box for me last year. They had a quarterback returning who was showing improvement. They had skill position players that were NFL draftable. They, on the line of scrimmage, had offense and defensive lines, NFL caliber players. So you're going to dictate the terms and conditions at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball almost every game you play in. You got a quarterback that you trust in a program that has developed really good quarterbacks. You got skill position players that are going to make a difference. There's no reason for you not to be really good. But for one reason or another, things kind of fell apart. Maybe it was a chemistry thing. Maybe it was just a bunch of different goals, maybe inside the building not being aligned. You'd have to ask a lot of people that cover Clemson on a daily basis maybe what they think it is. And even if you polled 10 of those people, you might get 10 very different answers too. I think there's one thing that we start overlooking because it is becoming more like pro sports in terms of roster changes of one player going to the next. I find myself in NFL and NBA discussions when a player gets traded, I'm like, okay, how do they fit in the offense? Yeah. What's the scheme fit for this player? And I don't think as a college football media, we've gotten to that point where the discussion becomes scheme fit. It's they were a 4-star recruit coming out of high school or a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, or they had, like Cam Coleman had a 900 receiving yard year at Auburn or whatever that number was, and you're thinking, okay, that should automatically be plug and play. Maybe we don't account for those same things that you do in pro sports off the bat the same way you do when you immediately see a trade in a professional sport.
Yeah, I think you have a great point there. I think we need to start looking at this landscape more as we do with the professional sports. What makes college football so hard is you take the NFL, for example. Okay, you have 32 teams. A lot of the personnel changes are recycled. A lot of the guys that are going from team to team, we have several years of experience with them. With college football, what makes it so hard is one, incoming freshman. You never know what a freshman is going to do.
That's always been a mixed bag.
Yes. I mean, like Jaden Sellers, for example. We didn't know he was going to have the season he did, and he got so much better as the season went on. How could anyone predict that? It's so hard to predict, and if you told me you predicted that, I don't believe you.
Right, yeah. You must be from Florence, and you saw him play in high school all the time. Yeah.
Yes, Norris Sellers probably predicted
yes.
that. I believe that, but anyone else, I don't know. But it's so hard because you have hundreds of teams, and then you have people coming up from the FCS level, which, there's some very reliable schools that send up FCS talent to the FBS level, but you truly never know. And then it's guys that might have, again, we talk about Clark, like a game of experience where you can really trust what he's done at.
The only thing that you could look up and get a full game of college football sample size, with Christian Clark is the bowl game from last year.
And then even positional changes. I think so much offensive line, we see so much movement. We saw that last year from guard to center, guard to tackle, and whatnot. That will knock your chemistry off if you don't have a solid foundation. So I think when we look at that, it just makes this landscape so hard to predict.
Now, predicting winners in college football in July, a lot harder than it used to be. Giving winners for the day's show, very easy. We'll do that. Brought to you by the Golden Spur next.
Winners. Winners.
And every day we'll give you our Winners of the Day show, brought to you by the Golden Spur. And I think my first winner of the day show, Jared Parker, fencing scandals. Because we broke out the list of top 5 summer events, and when we talked about the Summer Olympics, I kind of just like brought back into the forefront of my memory that there are some of the more creative cheating scandals in the sport of fencing that you just may have never heard about yet.
Yeah, that when you mentioned cheating in fencing, I was like, how does one even cheat? Like, it made no sense to me.
It feels pretty straightforward, right? I touch you with my sword, I poke you with it, or whatever it is that it's called. I think we did have a texter on the Firehouse Subs text line says they're called Ipe, I think. So I think that if that's what that's called, I make contact with you in a certain area, and I win the round, and then you play through everything. Pretty self-explanatory. They have judges. They've historically had judges and all that type of stuff, but now because of the technology, they have like censorship or sensor technology to where if you touch somebody in that spot, you automatically get awarded the point. The technology does it for you, so you don't need judges or anything like that. There is a scandal, and I don't know the specifics of who it was that did it or even where they're from, but I just remember reading about it maybe a year or two ago that there was an instance in which a parent was in the crowd for like an Olympic qualifier and was able to like hack the software and had their own little buzzer to signal the sensor to go off, even if the other person didn't actually make contact. And that became a huge ordeal. There's been maybe no sport on planet Earth in which technology has been worse or worse for the sport than fencing.
That goes hard, though.
It does.
That low-key goes
It's elaborate. It goes hard in how elaborate of a scandal that became.
Like, I almost... You're supposed to get on here and say, oh, it's disgusting how you would cheat like that. But part of me is like, wow, like that's kind of impressive.
I'm kind of impressed. Honestly, that was kind of how I felt about the Astros scandal.
Really? Oh, that's
because when you read
controversial.
exactly what they did, like it was some intern in a closet, like came up with like this crazy algorithm to where like, their video would pick up the signs and would steal it in record time and do it faster. I'm like, the fact that you have the ability to do that to me is almost as impressive as anything. Like,
Okay.
good on you.
Fair,
Like, that
fair.
is tough. Like that is wild that you went through those many hoops. Like, yeah, you'll get punished for it, but at the same time, like, tip of the cap to you. That's actually kind of elaborate.
Okay, you know what? I that's a new perspective that I hadn't had for it. I'll give you that.
If you ever get the chance, there's a good podcast series about it. I forget what it's called. I'll tell it to you off air once I can find it. But there's an investigative series that was done. I think Sports Illustrated did it, where they got down to the bottom of that scandal, and you find out that it was just like some intern. I think he called it Code Breaker was what he called it, and it was just building a computer that could basically decipher signs in real time. And like the Michigan football scandal too, like
Yeah,
the Connor
I
Stallions
was gonna
thing.
say,
You watch the documentary about how he was able to just by himself. I don't even think he used a computer. He just by himself was able to just decipher everything somebody was doing and all these elaborate hand signals and all of that. I'm like, you take the time and effort to do that. Okay, we'll get punished for it in a certain way, but also you've impressed me a little bit.
It takes some serious skill to do that.
And also, you have never talked to a woman, I guess. If if you're taking
Yes.
that much time to do that, your social life has taken the biggest hit on planet Earth.
No life outside the field.
Yeah, brutal. Yeah, just absolutely brutal, but also impressive.
Very impressive. I guess I'll give my winner.
Yeah.
I got my winner for bouncers.
Yes.
Yes, Elijah, former bouncer. Yeah, bouncers. A lot of people don't like bouncers. A lot of people find bouncers to be, terrible gatekeepers for some clubs. But I just, I want to give some respect to bouncers.
Yes.
Because
Put some respect on our names.
I feel like they don't get a lot of love. They're always seen as like the least desirable part.
the villain.
Yeah, the villain. It's
The
like,
party pooper.
Oh, look at this guy. Like, oh, why is he here? You're just ruining the fun. But I got to give respect because someone has to be responsible for keeping the environment safe, keeping
Yes.
the environment, fun, making sure that people are dressed appropriately. So respect to you and all the bouncers well, your former profession and all the
Yes.
bouncers.
My
that are
son
still
did
out
that for a while too, and yeah, not a lot of respect sometimes,
Yes.
but you know what? Like you said, safety is the first priority.
Yes.
See, I was thankful for the guys like Jen's son. Shout out to Trent. Trent would have been, the brawn. I was just here because I could spot a fake ID pretty well.
Okay.
And, I can talk a big game, but I had two guys that were like 6'5" and above that would handle all the dirty work.
Okay.
So I had the freedom.
So no scuffles for you.
No, I usually left that to the
To
more
the Trents
professionals.
of the
yes,
world.
yes,
Yes.
The Trents got to be in the scuffles. I was more doing anything else. I was
had to
checking the
drag
fake
anyone
IDs and being like, hey man, I need help hauling this drunk person out of this
Yeah.
building. Can you
Nice.
give me some assistance here? I've got some horror stories for days on a few of those. If you want to be able to be a good storyteller, that's the profession to be in because you will just come away with some naturally. Those are our winners for today's show. Jared Parker's always a winner. Thanks for joining us. Tyler Head's a winner, and the Extra Point, and they're next.